In September 1848, a Vermont foreman named Phineas Gage took a 13-pound iron rod straight through his skull, and neuroscientists still cannot fully explain how the region it destroyed, the orbitofrontal cortex, let him walk away conscious, talking, and technically fine. How does a hole through the front of your brain leave your body untouched, but erase the man who used to live there? Doctors documented every physical detail. What they couldn't account for was what came back. It's late afternoon on the Rutland and Burlington Railroad, outside Cavendish, Vermont. Gage is 25, foreman of a blasting crew, known for being steady, reliable, well-liked. He's packing blasting powder into a drill hole with a tamping iron 3 feet 7 inches long, over an inch thick. A spark ignites the powder early. The rod launches upward, enters below his left cheekbone, exits through the top of his skull, and lands 80 feet away covered in blood and brain matter. Gage is thrown backward. Within minutes, he's talking. Within an hour, he's sitting upright in an ox cart, riding into town to see a doctor. He never loses consciousness. That alone should have been impossible. Dr. John Martin Harlow examines him that evening and finds the wound survivable, remarkable, given the damage, but survivable. Gage recovers physically within weeks. His memory is intact. His speech is intact. His movement is intact. On paper, this looks like a full recovery, a medical miracle worth reporting and moving past. That was the obvious theory circulating through the medical community, that Gage had simply gotten lucky, that the brain had absorbed catastrophic trauma with no lasting cost, that the mind and the tissue were separable in exactly this convenient way. But here's what breaks that theory. The people who'd known Gage his whole life stopped recognizing him, not physically, but as a person. Harlow's own notes describe a man who was no longer Gage. The foreman had been patient, disciplined, careful with money and people. The man who walked away from the accident was impulsive, foul-mouthed, incapable of following through on plans, prone to sudden furious outbursts that dissolved just as fast. He lost job after job. Friends described him as a stranger wearing a familiar face. Something had been removed that no instrument could measure, and it hadn't shown up on the body at all. It had shown up entirely in decisions, judgment, restraint. The rod had passed almost exclusively through the orbitofrontal cortex, and whatever that structure did, it wasn't optional. This is where the case stops being a curiosity and becomes the deepest problem in it. Modern imaging reconstructions of Gage's skull, the actual skull, preserved and studied for over a century, show the destruction was concentrated in the ventromedial and orbitofrontal regions, the areas we now associate with impulse control, social judgment, and weighing future consequences against immediate reward. But knowing where the damage sat doesn't explain how a person's character could be so surgically extracted while intelligence, language, and memory stayed completely untouched. You'd expect a wound like that to leave global damage, slurred speech, amnesia, motor failure. Instead, it left a fully functioning man who had simply stopped being able to be the same man. No one in 1848 had language for that. Arguably, no one fully does now. Later researchers proposed clean explanations. Some argued Harlow exaggerated the personality change for a more compelling case report. Some argued Gage actually recovered further in his final years, working steady jobs in Chile, which would mean the brain adapted after all. But the Chile records are thin, disputed, impossible to verify against Harlow's original account. Others point to modern patients with similar orbitofrontal damage who show the identical pattern: intact intelligence, collapsed judgment, which undercuts the idea that Gage was ever an exaggeration or an outlier. If it were random, it wouldn't replicate. It replicates. So the obvious explanation that it was overstated or temporary or particular to one unlucky man doesn't hold. And the deeper explanation, that a fist-sized region behind your forehead is somehow load-bearing for who you fundamentally are, still isn't something researchers can point to and fully explain. They can name the region. They can show you the scans. Nobody can tell you where, exactly, inside 3 inches of tissue, a personality actually lives, or how much of yours is one accident away from being someone else's.